everybody, and welcome back to another edition of Tea and Strumpets. This is one half of your illustrious hosts. I am Forrest, aka Jungle915 on Twitter, and I have here with me today.
Hey kitties, it's Sean, and you can reach me at Sean with a W on Twitter.
Yes, and we are back to discuss our next episode of Pose. This is going to be for season 2, episode 2, Worth It. And, we're going to talk about whether or not watching this was worth it. Spoiler alert. It definitely was. We're going to kind of just get into a few of the highlights that we wanted to point out and things that we thought were hella interesting. So we're going to start out with our first revelation, which is Elektra's job. We're going to find out how Elektra's getting this coin out here. So we have some things in the opener, but we found out that apparently Elektra is a dominatrix.
Mm-hmm.
And that could not be any more perfect. Like, the way that she talks to people, she looks great with a whip.
She likes to be in charge.
She looks great with a whip.
She's a woman that likes to take charge.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it makes sense. I mean, I think after the whole, sure, I guess you would call him a sugar daddy. The whole sugar daddy kind of dumping her when she wanted to get, the full surgery. It makes sense that she wouldn't really want to go into a situation where she was so dependent on a man like she was in season 1.
Mm-hmm. Well, that, and I think psychologically it also makes sense for her character because we've seen Elektra kind of lose control. Like when we were introduced to her in season 1, she has full agency. Like, yes, she has her situation where she's subservient to the sugar daddy, but in her personal life, she was very much in control of her atmosphere, in control of her house. And we've seen a steady knocking down of Elektra, like a steady humbling. So it kind of makes sense that in that space that she's taking control, that she's dominant, that she's the Elektra that we recognized in ways that we, and though we've seen sparks of it elsewhere, she just hasn't been on her game.
Yeah, and she talks about it later in the episode when she's like, I'm tired of tired of being in someone's house and tired of this and tired of that. So, she's like, I don't need to do this.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Definitely. I mean, we definitely get her in a fun scene. That's definitely the happiest that we've seen Elektra on. She looks like just happy as a lamb. Like, I loved how excited she was. He was like, I'm getting this money. I'm beating these bitches' ass. I love it. And
even when she was talking to the other girls, where she was like, I love this job.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm making so much money, and just, and she's not having to, because she was also doing the same thing that Angel was doing, dancing behind the glass window.
Yeah, the peep show. But so we know now that Elektra is not out here mopping and things, that she is out here legitimately getting her coin.
She ever was? I knew it was something. I'm like, okay, she's not slinging dope.
No,
she's doing something sexually
mopping ain't
related.
Slinging dope, baby. Mopping is stealing.
Oh yeah, that could be like boosting.
yeah. I thought she was smooth. I mean, because we've seen that's that Christmas episode. They was mopping. From the
she was running a 5K to that donation bucket.
So I was like, no, Elektra's not above mopping. That's she's about by any means kind of a girl. So I love that about her. Now the next thing that we wanted to cover was Blanca and her unfortunate fashion. And I love the show for kind of having these real moments and these kind of insights into the trans experience that I as a cis person never consider.
Especially in this day and age where it's like you just order your clothing online.
Mm-hmm.
You have an entirely different access than what they had back then. And it's like if you weren't passable, there's no way in hell you were getting into a fitting room.
Well, yeah, and also you gotta. I mean, this is again. We talked about this last week. The notion of Blanca not being passable is hilarious to me, but we it's just this is just that we have to suspend belief for this show for the sake of
Hey, I
everything.
mean, we live in a world where if you look like Sandra Bullock and you put on glasses and you take them off, you're magically beautiful. Like no one saw it when you had the glasses on. So we're trained to look past the obvious.
Yeah, yeah. So that's it. We get a wonderful, sweet scene where Angel is kind of letting her know that, hey, because Blanca is trying to go get the lease for her nail shop because she has quit. Um, and Angel is like, girl, your stylish is played, it's boo boo. You got to do a little bit more. And Blanca, at this point, what we're referring to is Blanca lets her know essentially I can't really try on things. I can't really get back to go to a fitting room or anything like that. Essentially, I just have to grab what I can off the rack before anybody clocks me and just get out. And excuse me, I had some flu. It was like a hair or something. I don't know where that came from, but
Oh, I
sorry.
know. I had to get some water because I'm like, where the fuck is the mute button? I just got to take a drink because I'm gonna start coughing.
Yeah. So basically Blanca lets her know basically I can't really see how anything looks on me until I get home with it. So I don't have a way of styling myself. I don't I style is secondary to me because it's just a point of getting some clothes, period. And we get Angel styling her. And it just turns out to be a really, really sweet scene. So was there anything else that you wanted to add about that?
Mm.
Okay, so that actually takes us right into being introduced to the character that Patty LuPone is paying for this season, and her name is Frederica Norman. Now, so for those of you all, because Poe stays teaching the children history, if you ever get a chance, or when you get a chance, look up Leona Helmsley because the Patty LuPone character is basically it's Leona Helmsley without them calling her Leona Helmsley. Like when you look
I
at
don't know why I was thinking it was Lona Falana.
Lola Falana is black, and no,
I
she's
know when I looked her up when I Googled her, I'm like, oh, clearly I got the name mixed up. Because why would they have Patty LuPone playing a black woman?
yeah, she was like a matinee idol, like one of the great beauties of the like 70s or so. I think 70s. But yeah, no.
I think it sounded familiar to me for some reason.
hmm But yeah, no, she's definitely like an offshoot of Leona Helmsley, who in her time she was known as the Queen of Mean, and during the '80s she was a real estate magnate, very similar to Trump in that era, except she was a woman. She was known for being racist. She was known for like berating her staff. She also ended up eventually, and I think there's a bit of foreshadowing with the whole I like cash for the sake of taxes and shit like that. She ended up going to jail for tax evasion. But yes, that was a huge, a big shout out to like the '80s, the late '80s, early '90s. But at any rate, Patty LuPone is playing her down. She is every
Oh
bit
yeah, she's
the evil rich white bitch that you want to see. Is just juicy.
she's cruel. She gives me vibes, Cruella Deville,
Absolutely, absolutely. Uh,
minus skin and puppies.
yes, yes. So yeah, it was a really good intro to that character. I'm interested to see how things develop, how they kind of play out the relationship or the interaction between her and Blanca. We'll talk about a bit later. But yeah. I anything else to kind of say on her?
I was gonna say I like how they bring in like the more well known names like they did with Evan Peters and James Vander what's his name Vanderbeek
Mm-hmm.
Vander Dawson,
You
whoever
had it right.
Dawson.
It was James Vanderbeek. I said,
Oh, okay. And the other girl who was in the Fantastic Four.
Kate Mara.
Kate Moore, yeah. I remembered her sister's name, but not her. Um, kind of as like, just the guest stars for the season, because I think Patty LuPone is supposed to be in there for the entire season, and then I'm pretty sure, much like we don't see the others from season one, we won't see her in season three.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, we never know, but the main thing, and this is what I love about the show, is it is very much centered on the experience of these trans women of color. So rather than, I think one of the we talked about it, and one of the things that I was concerned with was that you were going to be doing this whole tour guide thing where it was a story about these trans people and about these people in this specific culture, but you're only seeing it through the eyes of the white people so that they can be your tour guide to say like, here, look, here's this world. And I was so pleasantly surprised when the show turned out to not be that. So I think at this point, I mean, they're living in New York, so you're going to have interactions with people outside of that community because again, this is about delving into their lives, but it's not centered on them. And I like that aspect. So it's still Blanca and her family in the House Evangelista is still very much the center of the story. But, you get these characters that kind of come in and out of their lives. All right. Anything else to add before we move on?
Mm-mm.
Okay. So we do get another funeral who is somebody named Derek, who is a friend of the family, but I guess we never really get introduced him as a character. But I mean, it's just kind of this running theme that lets you know what the gravity of the times is. Like funerals are a mainstay. You're constantly going to them because people are constantly dying.
I think that's something that we take for granted now because even when I listen to the Jennifer Lewis book, The Mother of Black Hollywood, on Audible, she very much talks about, the AIDS epidemic and how she herself, who she talked about having a sex addiction, was like, shit, I got it. I'm dying. She went out and spent all her, she was running up credit cards and stuff because she was like, I'm going to die. I have this AIDS. And that's since AIDS is not really looked at as a death sentence anymore. I think that people don't take it as serious.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, especially now you have things like PrEP and you have, there's so many ways that you can live with it. I mean, to the point to now where, and, quick point of note, now have people who can be undetectable, which was unheard of. I mean, the first time that we ever heard of that was with magic, but now we know, oh, you can be undetectable to the point now we know that if you're on your medication regimen and you're undetectable, if you're in a serodiscordant couple, which terminology, serodiscordant means that one person has HIV, the other person doesn't. If your viral load is undetectable, you can't even transmit the disease. So it's a whole new world. It's completely different then. But yeah, I mean, that's one of the things that you remember about that time if you were aware enough or if you had any access to a circle of people who were affected. It was, I mean, people were dropping like flies, but that's the reason why you had to have ACT UP. That's the reason why you had to have people boldly state that they're here because, I mean, they were literally just dying off in droves. And unfortunately, it happened to be two of the populations that people cared about the least. It was gay people and then users of intravenous drugs, so people who like took heroin, anybody who did anything with needles. Those were the main two people that were dying at that point of AIDS. It was either gay people or people who were on some sort of intravenous drug. So yeah, it was a lot. But we get Blanca letting the girls know. We didn't even talk about that. She got the nail shop, so she's excited about that. We also get the Chandra Bernard character kind of reiterating, "Hey, girl, them pills I gave you. Hey, girl, you want to start this regimen? Like, for real, girl, please."
But I understand her not wanting to take it the same way that a lot of people who have cancer, they're like, I don't want to take chemo because it's essentially a poison to, kill off, prolong, slow down the disease. I see, especially if you're seeing so many examples of people like, you think that this just accelerates the process. Especially, we haven't really seen Blanca have like any symptoms
Mm-hmm.
of AIDS. So I'm kind of like not really looking forward to when that starts happening because she is very much the mother character. Like she is a strong character. And I think it's going to get really, I don't know how they're going to play it as the seasons go on, but I think it's going to get tough when things start happening, especially how it affects the house
Mm-hmm.
of the children.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's a real thing because again, we're not talking about just that HIV diagnosis. Blanca has full blown AIDS at this point. So,
Hmm.
while and at that point, it was a situation where you would be fine, you would be fine, you would be fine until you just weren't, and then next thing you know, you are like
Yeah.
completely out, night sweats and all of the lesions, and then next thing you know, you got pneumonia or some sort of super rare disease, and you in the you go into the hospital and you never come back out. And it's just like I said, it's a different world, and we definitely a lot of people take that for granted.
Yes, especially if you look at the darker side of Twitter. Some of these girls love to just bust it open and get their Twinkie filled
Well, hey, you
by
know,
strangers. You know, I don't like to like. Some people are just into like that's what they want to do, but we'll talk about that when Blanca starts when we
yeah,
get into Blanca's
yeah,
story.
that's another thing. Okay,
Yeah,
so
sometimes I like to get ahead of myself.
yes, yes. So we get we get now the girls of the house ferocity are doing a little bit better at the balls. We have a great scene with Lulu kind of giving an homage that just for you all who know. I mean, at the end of the episode, there's a quote by Hector Extravaganza who passed away in between filming of this season and last season. And he was one of the consultants on the show. Like, if you watch the first episode of Pose, he's actually one of the judges on the panel. Um,
Hmm.
and the standing skirt dress or whatever, that was something that Hector Extravaganza had done during a ball. So that was kind of a callback to him. There were, seeds planted because Janet Mock is greatness, and Janet Mock is the one who directed this episode. Um,
I admire the creativity, like what they what they were able to create from nothing.
mm-hmm. Absolutely, absolutely. Like, I mean, you see it time and time again with these super marginalized communities. Whether it's up north, it's the ballroom scene, and that's kind of spread around. Down south, you see it with the girls who do the J setting and all of the stuff and the work that goes into that and the competitions around that. It's just amazing what people kind of rally around when they kind of don't have anything else and the creativity that goes into it when they don't have resources, because whether they say necessity is the mother of invention. So, and you see these girls consistently inventing over and over again. So we get back to the house ferocity where they have the most struggle of struggle dinners that I have ever seen in my life. These girls are eating popcorn and Slim Fast.
With the tiniest lunch bags I've never seen lunch bags that size. It was like, and then I'm thinking, is it like the single pop? Because I don't even know if they had that back then. I think they
Wow.
just had a one popcorn bag for all.
Listen,
But
Candy said, bitch, after I had to pay this rent and run these errands, I had enough money left over to get a bag of Orville Redenbacher, this Slim Fast, and a manicure. And this is where we get and oh, I love that every last one of them had hot sauce in their bag.
yeah, all different brands, variety, whatever you're
Jiggly
into.
talking about this will help. This will speed up your metabolism. um, Uh, and this is where we get kind of the reclamation of Elektra, like reclaiming herself and reclaiming her power. Because she, at first she was like, this is some struggle shit, but I go along with it for a minute. And she was like, I need a place for my things. And Candy lets her know, bitch, this ain't Blanca. You got what you got. You can put it under your bed. You can do whatever you want to. But bitch, I'm barely paying rent around here. Like what? It ain't no room. There's no room at the end, especially if you're not going to share. So, which is fair. That's reasonable. Like you want people to make space for you, but you definitely don't want to share your shit. Then, girl, side eye. So
yeah, you need us more than we need you.
At that point. So then Elektra, because now we know because Elektra has found a hustle, basically has her monologue moment where she's like, you know what? I have been lowering and debasing myself trying to make room for y'all, but you know what? I'm actually a bad bitch out here. So let me go ahead and act like a bad bitch. She the same way she flipped the table at House of Angelisa. Now she pulls the the kitchen the table skirt or whatever.
The table cover.
Yes, he's talking about this is a signature move.
All I was thinking about is like, oh my god, they're gonna be really hungry tonight.
Okay, bitch, they didn't have much. Knocked over the Slim Fast and shit.
Now she's like, I would have attacked her.
Yeah,
bitch, I have nothing.
Yeah, we don't have it. Yeah, bitch, you about to get your ass beat. Like everybody about to.
Like I'm honestly surprised that they all just didn't attack her.
Yeah. At any rate, she leaves in a huff, and that is the end of that struggle dinner. And then we move on to Elektra kind of assembling what she's going to have as a new house, which is the House Wintour. And they have another ball, and she interrupts the ball to introduce her house. And this is where they fight. Because when Elektra does so, her and Candy get into it. Candy lets her know, bitch, it's hammer time. And Elektra says, I'm going to gut you like the fish you will never be. Oh, Jesus.
Poor Candy.
Which, again, that's another one of those where it's like they be playing Candy like she ain't shit. But, anyway, I love Candy. And I love Angelica.
Honestly, I don't think any of the girls on here are passable.
Oh, yeah, everybody. This is everybody. We're suspending belief for everybody because everybody looks good. And I fucking love Angelica Ross. Like, if you should follow. If you don't follow her on the Twitters and shit, you should follow her. She does great things. Like she has a company that she does with training trans women to get into tech. She's the shit. She's legit the shit. Like she's dope as fuck. So that's it. It makes for a hilarious scene. And at this same this kind of brings us into a deal where and you already said that Elektra's intro in her new house. Okay, so House of Wintour is coming. It's named after Anna Wintour. There's that. At this same event,
I love when Candy was like, now it's Snow White here.
Which is the girl that she's referencing is going to be played by Trace Lysette, who you will probably recognize from Transparent. Trace Lysette has spoken before about her experiences coming up because she actually did participate in ballroom culture, and she was one of the only white girls to ever really be in the community. So I think it's a good nod to kind of have her in there. So they're probably going to be able to draw from some real experiences from her for that. So she
says that when Elektra comes to her, she's like, they don't allow the white girls. And she was like, she hands it because she gives everyone a Cartier box. So Elektra is pulling in some goddamn money.
Okay.
And Elektra's like, consider it gentrification or something. Like that.
So
Elektra's like, I don't give a fuck what they want. This is about me.
This is what you gonna get. and you will eat
And how
what I
I'm gonna be
serve.
elevated.
Yeah, you're gonna eat what I serve, and bitch, I'm about to serve, and there it is to the T. So at this same um, event, we kind of rewind a little bit. Ricky has come back from his tour with Albie Shore, so he's now back in town. Him and Damon have reunited, and they're all lovey dovey and shit. So they're at this ball, all lovey dovey and shit. And Damon is at the bar, kind of looking at things, observing. And a guy kind of comes on to him or whatever. And he was like, no, I'm not, interested. Not in a rude way, but just, no, I'm not interested. And the guy's like, you were different than I thought you to be, which should have been your first cue. Bitch, what you know
So
about me?
step away from this messy
Yeah,
queen.
bitch, what you know about me? The queen goes on to say, "I recognize you from the photos," and that basically him and Ricky were smashing while on tour, and it ends up in a whole confrontation. But it just leads to this kind of prevailing idea where Damon is doubting Ricky's faithfulness. The queen makes reference to Damon being fat. I don't quite understand that.
Yeah,
But
I'm like, oh, here we go with the fat shaming. That's one thing that I really cannot wait until we get to a point where, I mean, I remember people were like upset over the Thor, being bigger in Endgame, but I don't feel like they were as mean and nasty. Like he was just mean and nasty about it. And I'm like, it's always a queen who wants to call somebody fat when they're not even fat. This is why people have these damn eating disorders and body dysmorphia, because it's very easy. Like you start thinking, oh, am I fat? Like,
well, and with the Thor thing, just on a side note on that, I mean, the whole thing was that him being fat didn't mean that he was unworthy. That's why he was so happy to find out that, oh shit, I am still worthy. Even like this, I'm worthy. And they
mhm.
never, like, at least not as of now, they have not changed him back. He's still Fat Thor. So there's a different message going on there. And here, I mean, obviously they're not bringing in fat shaming as like a deal, but this is just a tool that this queen chooses to pull out, because when you're trying to go at somebody, you just try to pick whatever you think could be an insecurity.
It is very like real though. Like,
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
man,
Like,
I think we've all been called fat at some point.
yeah, and I mean, I will say this, just my based off of my own personal experiences. Um, I did not come out until later. So a lot of my first interactions with like relationships and with dealing with people when I was kind of forming my idea were very much kind of in the cis head lane, right? So when it came to me stepping to people, when it came to me kind of getting involved with people, I never really looked at my weight as an issue or anything like that. Like I never had a complex around it, but seeing how the girls are, like the girls who if I had really come up in that world, I could easily see, I can see why there are a lot of guys who have bulimia or anorexia and things like that. I mean, we even see that like with the Elton John story, like he talks about being bulimic.
Hmm.
Like that pressure that you have to be perfect because basically men are trash. So since men are trash, they're like, trash with weight and shit like that. I could have easily seen having that complex. Fortunately, by the time I entered the gay world, I was already fully formed, and I had my self esteem was already there. So it's like, rather than me trying to adjust myself to somebody not thinking that I was quote unquote skinny enough, that I was like, well, bitch, I ain't for you, and I'm good. I holla. But I can see how if during my formative years, even, and when I say formative years, like even like just out of high school and shit like that, if that had been the case, then I could see how that, because the girls are vicious and they don't play fair. So all of that to say, Ricky and Damon are fighting. Shout out again to Janet Mock for having the perfect soundtrack, because while this is happening, you're hearing "I got a meeting in the ladies' room." Oh, it's perfect. The song choice is fucking perfect. So what do you think? Do you think that Ricky cheated?
Yes, just because it doesn't seem like he would be able, because he wasn't honest about, you know, having a gay person, another gay dancer.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then just he should have said something right away. Like he should have been like, "Oh, so and so." And then I guess I mean Damon didn't really talk about it. I can't remember him saying that he can't get a hold of Ricky a lot, but the guy's like, "What do you think he wasn't playing cards? Every time you tried to call him, you couldn't reach him." But this is also at a time where we've been in an age where we have cell phones, and before that, there were pagers. And it's like you had to, for me, I had to really take myself back and be like, there is no cell phone, there is no pager, there's no email. You really have to old school write a letter or get a hold of them on the phone.
Okay, so here's my thought. I definitely think he did it, and I think it for two reasons. Number one, like you said, this is an era with no Facebook, ain't no Instagram, ain't no cell phones. Bitch, how do you recognize me by photos unless he's shown them to you?
Hmm.
So that's number one, off rip.
And then we all know some queens, like, that's like a challenge at that point. Like,
Okay. Yeah, well, that's okay.
let me go ahead and.
And here's my second reason. I know how it feels, and I'm sure you do. All of us know what it feels like to be accused of some shit you did not do. You are not cool about that. Ain't nobody cool when you've been accused of some shit you didn't do. You're not gonna just try to back your boyfriend up. You're gonna say, bitch, why you lying? Why you trying to cause discord in my relationship? What the fuck is up with you? Like, basically, Damon wouldn't have been the one. If you're coming up to my man and telling my man that you fucked me, my man is not gonna be the one fighting you, bitch. I'm gonna be the one fighting you. Like, bitch, what are you doing? Like, why
Hmm.
are you trying to, why are you trying to sow discord? You know me and you ain't never kicked it like that, bitch. What is going on in your head? Why you trying to cause problems in my, you know what I'm saying? When you have been accused of some shit or when somebody's trying to spread rumors about you that are not true, you go at them hoes vehemently. And Ricky was way too fucking cool. Like that nigga was hella cool. Like he was not phased. He was like, "Oh, you tripping and you jealous." Now, mind you, again, we can only see what the show has shown us, but we haven't seen Damon be jealous in this show.
No.
And so it's like, okay, bitch, you playing mind games with me. Now you gaslighting me and you trying to tell me you didn't say anything because you knew I'd be jealous. Bitch, if there's nothing to worry about, then if there was nothing wrong, you would have kept it real trill from Hundo, from the beginning. Like, if there was another gay on tour, yeah, you'd have been like, oh, yeah, there's this other dude. Finally, I'm not the only gay person here. I have somebody that I can talk to because if we're on this tour where the bands and now everybody else is straight, I have somebody who I can talk to on the low that's cool. And I can't wait till you meet him when we get back. You know what I'm saying? That's how you would
Hmm.
handle that. But so like everything about the way Ricky is handling this shit is like, bitch, you know you did it and you don't want to admit that you did it, but it's very fucking obvious that you did do it. So that's yeah, we're on the same page with that. I'm totally think that Ricky did that shit, but he's just some men just kind of ride it out to the end. So last, when we move on from there, and we finally get Blanca. Well, this kind of all goes together. So we get the last ball, which is the feather ball, which Blanca looks beautiful there. Uh, I don't know what the fuck Candy was doing with them wings.
Hey, she told you it was over Rebenbacher's and Slim Fast budget.
When Pray Tell
She's
was
doing
like,
the best she can.
Pray Tell was like, somebody take this bitch back to getting kindergarten.
And teach her what the fuck feathers are.
Oh my love. And then we have this is the first time that Electra's house actually competes in the ball and them bitches do it. I mean they do it down. And of course they're tens across the board and they get their grand prize and all of that. But this at this point, Pretel and Blanca had previously had a conversation, because Blanca told him apparently Blanca was clocked by Frederica's son, and they go back and hand her money back and like, we can't rent to you, we're not gonna rent to you. So Blanca is talking to Pretel about how like, I can't believe I got clocked, they're gonna kick me out of here, and Pretel's telling them like, damn, you didn't even have a chance to polish a nail in there. So through the Pretel kind of gives her a talking to like, girl, you have to fight. You have to show your family how to fight. Because Blanca's also lamenting about the fact that when Ricky and Damon were fighting, it came out that Damon allowed Ricky and him and Ricky to have sex without protection. So now Blanca's worried on a whole other level, like, I thought that these funerals and everything would be enough to show y'all, bitch, it's real out here. It is real out here. You cannot be fucking raw like that. It's not crazy. It's crazy. So we get him telling her, hey, you have to fight. So Blanca goes back. She's fighting. She's going to set up her nail salon and push on. She has another dinner with her children. This is after Ricky. No, this is while Ricky is still here actually, because it precedes that feather ball, and Blanca tells them essentially about how she ended up with the disease. How by not feeling good about herself, she allowed herself to be with men who did not value her. And because in her mind, she wanted to make them feel as good as possible so that they would love her and keep her, that she let them have sex with her with no condoms. And she was getting drunk and things. And she cleaned herself up. And, she had gotten her life back on track, but it was too late. She had already gotten the disease. So she reveals at this point that she has AIDS to her children. We get the most wonderful scene with Poppy declaring his love for her and declaring the fact that he will always be there for her. And it's just, it was such a great scene. Did you have any other commentary, anything you wanted to say about it?
Well, I'm glad that that Blanca's character finally told them. I mean, because up until then, Angel was the only one that knew.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that it was a perfect time because it's one of those things like what we were talking about earlier where, you feel invincible. Like, oh, this happens to so-and-so, it's not going to happen to me. So when you see it happen in your household,
Mm-hmm.
and it's someone that you know and love, I think that she put aside her fear of not telling them to really get their eyes to open because she's like, shit, they're not listening, and having Pray Tell, kind of awaken her to that and then realize, I was that age once and I didn't listen and this is how I got here. And just given that the whole self-love message.
Yes, absolutely. So it turns out to be just a beautiful scene that takes us forward to the feather ball, where it seems like Damon has really taken that shit to heart. So at that feather ball, he pulls Ricky to the side because we had a scene earlier with him and Ricky going to get tested. And he kind of relented in the worst way. It was like I cringed a little when he was saying, you're my everything and all of that. And Damon kind of thinks on it, especially after having that talk with Blanca. And he's like, you know what? At this point, it doesn't even matter whether you cheated or not. It matters actually more that I am so wrapped up into you that I'm not even taking care of myself. So we need to take a break. And again, this shows me how selfish Ricky is too, because rather than saying, you know what, yeah, it should be about loving yourself and all of that, and let me give you the time you need, he's all about like, he doesn't want to lose what he has in the moment. And him joining, we find out later that he's joined Electra's house. It's like him going to join Electra's house is even more proof that, okay, girl, you just looking for a bed. And we, of course, we see
Mm-hmm.
shades of that in the first season when Ricky is the one who dimes out Poppy. Like, remember when, like, when Damon and Ricky find out that Poppy is dealing drugs or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
Ricky is the one who dimes out Poppy, like, well, I'm not losing my bed for him, so fuck him. He can, and he literally got Poppy kicked out because he was trying to hold on to his bed. So at this point, it's like, do you love me? Do you care about me, or do you just care about having a place to sleep? And that's kind of been a defining aspect of Ricky's character. So I was proud of Damon because Damon was like, "Girl, I cannot be this. I, I cannot be the type of person to lose myself in a man." And I love that he took Blanca's message to heart. So we see that, and then we get to our final scene where,
Well, also,
go
you know,
ahead. I'm sorry, I
if
didn't cut
he
you.
if we do find out for sure that he went to House of Winter, it makes sense because he's really meant more for Electra's house than he would be Blanca's. He's
Mm-hmm.
not. Everyone in Blanca's house is really selfless for the most part. I
They
mean, they
are.
do have their selfish tendencies here and there, but they're more about family. Where I feel like what you just said, Ricky is really more about self, just like Electra is, and it makes sense
Mm-hmm.
because he has his character has a background where he's had to rely on himself so much. Typically when people are like that and they have to rely on themselves and they've been let down by so many other people, they tend to be like that. They tend to worry about themselves more.
Yeah. And it's not a good or a bad thing. It just is what it is. Sometimes life fucks you in so many ways that it twists and turns you, and that's just who you are after life
Hmm.
has had its way with you. So, yeah, that's it. We get to our final scene, and this is where Blanca meets up with Sandra Bernard's character, and she finally says that she's going to start taking the medication. And oh my God, I love Janet Mock. You are my bitch. I love you for this. She gives us this set to Anita Baker's giving you the best that I got. Because Blanca's about to give life the best that she's got. She's about to really go all out. So we see her setting up her nail shop, taking her first customer, starting to take her meds. Blanca is really about to go all out for trying to really make as much of her life as possible. And it's just beautiful. Obviously, we know that "Giving You the Best of That Guy" is a beautiful song. And to me, what I love so much about that particular song choice is I was talking to you the other night, and I honestly cannot think of anybody else who's used an Anita Baker song like that. And it's not like her music isn't perfect for those types of moments. I mean, her music always has these triumphant chords, but it's like, yeah, of course you would do that. And it was a perfect way to close that episode. I was so happy, and just, again, it's about being full of hope for the future. You know that there's a hard road to hoe. You know that there's a lot that she's gonna have to go through, but she's gonna give it the best that she got. So I love it. Anything else for you to say on it?
No, I'm just glad that she's finally like she has this awakening,
Mm-hmm.
and in turn she's seen that she's gone too long without believing in herself. It's weird because she has hope. Like she's like the type of friend or person that you'd want in your life because she's always so positive about everything and she's strong.
Mm-hmm.
But when it came to herself, much like we see in a lot of mothers, they always put their children and everyone else first.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. So, yeah, that's pretty much everything that happened in this episode. Anything you want to say before we close?
No, I think that's it.
Okay, well, remember to like, subscribe, all of that jazz. Y'all are familiar with the YouTube shit, so do that. And until the next time that we speak, y'all have a wonderful whatever the fuck time you listening to this. Bye.
See ya.